Xbox just took back the crown. Is Jeff Keighley punishing Xbox? Let's talk about the game launch that has me thinking Xbox hasn't learned anything over the past couple of years. Are games harder to make now than ever? What is up, y'all? I am Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we get on and we talk about Xbox stuff. The latest news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about as long as it's about Xbox in some way. And in today's video, we're going to talk about how Xbox scored a much needed win against PlayStation, whether Xbox fans should be worried about the Game Awards, how players are struggling with this highly anticipated Xbox exclusive, and then we'll finish up the video with my honest thoughts about Stalker 2. Now, ever since Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, the fate of Call of Duty and Xbox have basically become one. It is very clear that the success of Call of Duty is of paramount importance to Xbox as a company. If at any point Call of Duty falls off, Xbox is going to be in a ton of trouble. But so far, especially with the launch of Black Ops 6, things seem to be going well despite some very big gambles made on Xbox's part, specifically deciding to launch Black Ops 6 day one on Game Pass. And in fact, Xbox hit another huge milestone in regards to Call of Duty, one they haven't been able to claim for at least the past decade. According to multiple news outlets, for the first time since 2014, Call of Duty is most popular on the Xbox platform than it is on any other gaming platform. Regardless of how you feel about Call of Duty, you don't care about it, you haven't played in a while, this is pretty significant for a number of reasons. You see, there are double the amount of PlayStation consoles out there when you compare them to Xboxes. Call of Duty is one of the top played games on PlayStation. It's probably technically the most popular on PC, but Call of Duty as a franchise generates a butt ton of money on PlayStation. That's why Sony was so salty about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. And in a way, it validates what Xbox has been doing over the past couple of years. They went into this generation knowing they got their butts kicked in the Xbox One generation. They were faced with a dilemma. Okay, we were outsold 2-1 and we're being outsold 2-1 again this generation in terms of hardware. How do we grow the Xbox player base? Okay, well, let's try expanding on PC. Let's try expanding cloud. Let's put Call of Duty on Game Pass. I do agree with this one thing that Phil Spencer said a couple years back, where he mentioned that, it's going to be really hard to get PlayStation owners to jump ship and buy an Xbox because their digital libraries have been being built up since the PS4 generations, for some over a decade. They may not be selling as many consoles as we may have hoped they would have, but they are still growing the Xbox player base. Obviously, Game Pass plays a huge part in that. And Treyarch actually came out and said, yeah, we believe Game Pass is going to be huge for people who may have fallen off in Call of Duty over the past couple of years. They can download it and try it out in a very low stakes way. And at least in my case, that's definitely what happened. I hadn't played Call of Duty in a long time, and I'm having a blast in Black Ops 6. And if I wasn't, I would just be like, okay, I tried it via Game Pass, let me move on with my life. I didn't need to pay full price for the game to see whether or not I would like it. It also helps that the game is actually pretty good and is fun, but despite all that, they're not giving concrete numbers here. We don't know how many copies of Black Ops 6 have been sold on the Xbox platform. We don't know how many Game Pass subscribers have been added since it launched. It's probably safe to assume that more people have bought Black Ops 6 on PlayStation than they have on Xbox, considering it's out on Game Pass. But I doubt that really matters to Microsoft though, because even if people are buying the game on PlayStation versus Xbox, they're still getting money. It may not be as much as if they sold a copy to someone on Xbox, but hey, money is money and they can double dip on both console player bases. Are they learning the wrong lesson though? I don't know why Xbox can't just be content with having this big multi-platform cash cow. Now it seems to be like, oh, well, the Call of Duty is a huge success and it's a multi-platform game. Let's make all of our other games multi-platform. Not every game is going to be a big breakout moneymaker like Black Ops 6. And to be honest, not every game needs to be that. I don't want that. I wish they can just be happy being like, yeah, Call of Duty, that's the moneymaker, we'll let it ride. And all of the other Xbox first-party stuff, that's just going to stay exclusive to Xbox. We can try to leverage that to grow the console player base. That doesn't seem to be the direction they want to go in, though. Phil also had some other interesting things to say in this GameFile interview. He was asked about Avowed and why it was delayed, and he assured us that it was not delayed because of quality issues. No, the game is shaping up to be good. It's actually because the release schedule for Game Pass specifically was getting too crowded between Stalker 2, Flight Sim, and Indiana Jones. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about this because, well, out of all of the games I just mentioned, Stalker 2 and Avowed were the ones I was most interested in. I would have much rather had Avowed than Microsoft Flight Sim. For years, Xbox has been promising this flood of first-party content. Oh, a AAA game every quarter. Wouldn't it be just way more baller if Xbox was like Indiana Jones, boom, a couple of weeks after that, boom, Avowed. Especially because I feel like people are gonna get through Indiana Jones pretty quick and then be like, okay, what's next? And when Avowed releases in 2025, it's gonna still have a lot of competition from other games, not just the Game Pass titles. I will give Phil some props though when he was talking about making games on licensed properties, games like Indiana Jones, like Blade. He was saying, yeah, those games are shaping up to be really well, but going into the future, he'd like to avoid that because dealing with licenses can be a pain in the ass. Rather than go forward with more licensed games, he would like to revisit properties that Xbox hasn't touched in a while. I still can't believe that we're getting Fable back, but there's still so many other franchises, even before they bought Activision Blizzard, that I feel like could do very well for Xbox. It's also directly opposite of comments that we heard from Sony, where they were like, we don't have enough original IP. What Phil did not mention is anything about the Game Awards. This video is brought to you by Manscaped. The holidays are upon us, and if you are struggling to find a gift for the gamer in your life, consider giving them one of the best grooming experiences out there. The Chairman Pro package from Manscaped. The Chairman Pro is an electric foil shaver that comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You can use the foil blade if you want a close, clean shave, or you can use the stubble blade if you want to keep a little bit more of that length, have that 5 o'clock shadow going on. The Chairman Pro also has Flex Adjust technology, meaning the blades operate on a pivot, allowing the Chairman to follow the natural contours of your face. It's really versatile. You can use it to cut through like a week's worth of growth, or you could use it daily to maintain that fresh face look. And just like the other Manscaped trimmers, it comes with an LED light, a travel lock, and it's waterproof. This package will also come with the Power Shave Gel, which was made specifically to be used with the Chairman Pro. And when you're finished with perhaps one of the best shaves you'll ever have in your life, you can slap on the Face Shave Soother in order to keep your skin hydrated and prevent any ingrown hairs. If you want to give the gift of immaculate grooming either to someone you love or yourself, you can use my promo code XBOXReady for 20% off of your purchase, plus free international shipping. Thanks again to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. The nominations for next month's annual Game Awards show, they're out, and people are never happy, I feel like, with the nominations, but this year especially so. And if you take a look at the Game of the Year nominees, Xbox Game Studios is noticeably absent once again. But still, a few Xbox first-party games have been able to snag nominations in other categories. Hellblade 2 is up for a couple of awards, Black Ops 6, Age of Mythology Retold. There are some questionable omissions. For example, the devs at Playground Games were like, I kind of feel like Forza Horizon 5 should have gotten a nomination for Best Ongoing Game, but hey, what do I know? And I do agree, I think Destiny 2 should not be on this list for Best Ongoing Game. If it wasn't going to be Forza Horizon 5, it should be something else. And overall, I see a bunch of people online talking about, oh, Jeff Keighley, he hates Xbox, he has a vendetta against Xbox, he loves PlayStation. I don't think that is necessarily the case. I really don't know what Xbox first-party games specifically would have made the cut for Game of the Year. What's weird to me is that there are a couple of Xbox games that I feel like should have been on the most anticipated games category. Fable for sure should have been in this category. Like, have people forgot how legendary the original Fable was? And Playground Games, they do good work. They don't make flops. And while yes, Fable isn't their usual MO, what we've seen in the game so far seems really, really awesome. But as a reminder, guys, I said this last year, I said this the year before, and I'm gonna say it again this year. If your favorite game didn't get nominated for something, that shouldn't affect your continued enjoyment of that game. Hey, if you love a game and every single YouTuber, content creator, or whatever says that they hate it, who cares? As long as you like it and you want to play it, go for it. I don't mind. So if you're an Xbox fan and you're like, man, I was going to skip the Game Awards because I feel like Xbox got snubbed or my favorite game was omitted from this category, I'd still recommend that you watch it because over the years especially, it's become less about the awards and more about the trailers. And last year, there were some really cool Xbox reveals, like that's when they revealed Blade, that's when they revealed the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3. So I'd still highly encourage you to tune in if you can, or at least catch up with it. Xbox needs to focus on a handful of other things before they worry about which rewards they're getting or not getting, like making sure their games launch well. I saw over the past couple days that people have been really struggling to even load into the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Players reported waiting for an extremely long time for the game to load. Certain game modes were just unplayable because entire aircrafts were missing. People were trying free flight and then being told that their bandwidth was too low and then kicking them out. We did get a response from Asobo Studio saying, "We are aware of user reports of long initial load times in a Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. With so many users initializing the sim concurrently, we have a large number of server requests. We are working to help resolve the issues as soon as possible." But it's not just the load times, though. People are reporting all sorts of problems with this game, and it has me wondering, has Xbox learned nothing over the past couple of years? These developers, these studios, these publishers, too many of them believe that they can push a game that is not ready or they're not prepared to fully support, and then say, hey, yeah, we know the game is struggling right now. People are having a hard time doing X, Y, and Z, but just give us like a week or two, we'll push a couple of patches, or in some cases, even like a couple of months, like, oh, we'll add in features 3 months from now, 6 months from now, stuff like performance mode or other game modes. And that may have worked like a couple of years ago, but now it's not something that should be happening. If you can't grab them in that initial release period, if they have a bad experience, they're gonna move on. You can't expect people to wait around. Maybe Asobo Studio can with Microsoft Flight Simulator because, well, there's not a lot of competition in the flight sim market. But with these other first-party games, they gotta make sure that everything is on point. Look at Redfall, for example. No performance mode, buggy, glitchy. People tried it for those first couple of days and they were like, this is terrible, I'm moving on, and they never recovered. To a lesser extent, with Halo Infinite, you can argue a similar sort of thing happened. They launched, and while it wasn't buggy, no Forge mode, no campaign co-op, limited number of maps, and because of that, people moved on relatively quickly. Which brings me to the last part of this video, Stalker 2, because I'm afraid there might be a similar issue going on here. I got to preview this game a couple of weeks back. I really liked the team. I really liked the experience, but the game was a little buggy and the textures were struggling a little bit, even on the Xbox dev kit that I was playing on. I was still hopeful, though, that they could clean it up by the time they sent out review copies. Xbox was kind enough to send me a review code, so big shout out to my friends at Xbox. Let's start off with the good. I am really into the world of Stalker 2. I'm really into the zone. The only other type of game that I've played like this, and it's not really like a one-to-one, but when I think about, oh, an open world adventure shooter that takes place in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, I think about Fallout. But whereas Fallout, yes, you're traveling this apocalyptic nuclear wasteland and you're running into some really messed up stuff. It's offset a little bit with the 1950s elements like the music and stuff. Whereas the world of Stalker 2, it is bleak and it is brutal, and you don't level up like you do in Fallout. Your character doesn't get these crazy abilities through VATS or these other powers through the skill tree. You are just a guy and you have to survive with whatever equipment you can carry and your wits, which made walking through and exploring the zone that much more terrifying. I wasn't anticipating how scary Stalker was going to be. Now, whenever I get a review copy of a game, I feel an immense amount of pressure on myself to finish the game, because how can I critique the game if I don't know the beginning, middle, and end? But then I remembered my experience previewing the game and talking with the team at GSC Game World.
Try make little steps. Just try to listen, because the sound in our game are pretty awesome. Just you can just hear your enemies if you will be quiet enough. If you will see anomaly, try not to run inside anomaly, you will die probably.
Yep.
Just try to feel it, just because Zone, she is alive. Zone itself is one of the main characters in this game, because she is alive and she has her own sense of humor, if you want. And she could be polite and nice, but also she could be very destructive, and she could kill you just in one moment. So just try not to be fast, just try to feel this atmosphere, and make little steps in the beginning.
And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm really going to appreciate the zone and the world that they've crafted. And I'm glad that I approached it that way. There is always something crazy going on in the zone. And one of my favorite things to do in this game is just walk around and explore things. The zone is terrifying, but it's also beautiful. When I'm walking around, I'm always seeing just the stuff that's making me go like, oh, what is that? That is so weird. And the audio design is awesome. Every little noise that I hear makes me pause and look around. And there's some truly terrifying sounds that you're gonna hear. Like, I'll be walking and I hear a noise and I turn around, it's like a freaking poltergeist ready to throw this barrel at me, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Or there's this mutant in the game that will camouflage itself, and when it gets close to you, you can kind of hear its footsteps, but it'll let out this crazy roar that will stun you for a bit. When I hear that roar, I'm like, oh crap, I'm in for a fight. Walking around and then stopping dead in my tracks because I hear my sensor going off. Oh, there's an anomaly around here. All of my senses were tuned in a way that I haven't felt in a while. I didn't get very far. I cleared out all the stuff in the intro area, the lesser zone. I found all the stashes. I did all the quests. I went to all of the markers on the map. And while some people will probably be like, I don't want markers on my map, I want to discover things naturally. It's not like other open world games. I'm thinking of Ghost of Tsushima or something, where you see a map marker and you go and it's like, oh, it's a shrine, or oh, it's a bathing pool. No, when you go to a map marker in Stalker, it's always something different. It could be this crazy anomaly, or it could be a warehouse of guys keeping some dude hostage. I also found that the zone, the world of Stalker 2, was having a profound effect on me personally in terms of my morality. Again, there's no leveling up in Stalker. The only way that your character gets better is if you get better guns, better equipment, and relics. You also have other needs too. Of course, you gotta have food, you gotta have ammo. And in this game, the only way you're gonna get those things is if you buy them, you find them, or you take them. And I found myself taking a lot more than I anticipated. The world of Stalker 2, it did things to me, man. I usually try to approach these games, at least for my first playthrough, as a neutral to good guy. And in this game, I was like, you know what? You have something that I want. There is no one around. Give it to me. And that's when you also find that people aren't just willing to give you stuff, you gotta take it from them by putting them in the dirt. And at one point, I felt really bad because I found this religious artifact. It was like a painting of the Virgin Mary, because some guy asked me to go retrieve it from this poppy field. And when I found it, there was also a guy sitting there, hanging out there, that was like, hey, if you give me that religious icon, I can give you this really awesome gun. And in Stalker, your gun is everything, man. The type of gun that you use is the difference between life and death. Here I am shooting someone with my little pistol, and it's doing like nothing. And then as soon as I whip out the Viper, I'm destroying people. So I was like, yeah, I kind of want the gun instead. And it was a really awesome gun, but I felt very bad because later on I found the stash with the same gun, but slightly better. I was like, oh man, I sold out this guy's religious artifact that he held so dear for a gun? The team at GSC Game World mentioned that there are branching narratives and storylines, but as of right now, the only choices that you get to make as a character and how you interact with the story in this world seem to boil down to, do you want to kill this guy or not? And I'm really hoping that those choices that I'm making in the early game, who I choose to live or die or who I choose to help, come back and affect the game in a more profound way, because I'm not seeing it yet. And while you do have to eat, you gotta chug vodka to make sure that you're not taking as much radiation, part of me wishes that they'd go a little bit farther with that mechanic, like the survival stuff. Like, oh, if you don't eat, not only are you losing health, but like you're very weak, you can't run. Maybe you'll even pass out if you haven't eaten for a long time. I was also confronted with a very hard truth when reviewing this game or playing the review build. It was very buggy and it was struggling immensely on my Series X. And I was talking to my buddy Jimmy, who had a PC code, and he was saying, yeah, like it's really struggling to hit that 60 FPS. Sometimes a building will spawn out of nowhere and tank it to like 1 FPS and crash the game. And I was having a lot of the same issues. And when I first played the preview, I was like, well, I think I would be willing to look past this because I like the world so much. It makes me feel like I'm some sort of urban explorer. But through the review period, The performance was affecting my enjoyment of the game in a very profound way. When one of the strong points of your game is the world and how dynamic it is, but the textures are constantly freaking out and there's always something weird and buggy going on, my immersion was being broken quite often. And yeah, the performance mode was a little bit better than the quality mode, but the game was still struggling. Like, here I am, I'm exiting this cave and I realize there's a bunch of people out there just ready to light me up. So I go back into the cave and I'm like, okay, I'll wait until they enter the cave because, well, that's the only way they can enter and that's when I'm gonna shoot them. Lo and behold, this guy just glitches into existence, shoots me, and then as I'm trying to take cover and figure stuff out, another guy glitches right in front of me and just kills me. I know Stalker 2 is supposed to be a difficult game, a challenging game, but a lot of the times I was not getting a fair shake. Like, I don't know what's going on with this dude in the corner. He's doing push-ups and for some reason he's doing it at like half the frame rate as everyone else. But there were some points in this game I was like, this is not a good looking game. This is looking kind of bad. And it was bumming me out. They did put out a patch before the game launched. It was something like 40 gigs on consoles. And I will say the game was improved, but even post-patch, I'm in this building, I'm looking around the sphere is what it's called, and textures are freaking out. I was throwing bolts through windows and the glass was breaking, but there was no audio. I'll also say the controls feel a little clunky as well. I don't know if that's just like the Call of Duty brain rot or the other action shooters that I play spoiling this experience for me, but I felt slow, I felt clunky. It probably didn't help that a lot of the time I'm over encumbered because I'm carrying so much ammo and supplies for myself and I haven't been able to upgrade my backpack yet. That took a little getting used to for me. So overall, I think Stalker has a lot of potential, it has a lot of character, but it is getting in the way of itself a lot. This game needs a little bit more work, it needs more patches before I can fully recommend it. And I hate that I'm saying that because I was so excited for it. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Help me on my journey to 200,000 subs. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.